Hello, everyone, and welcome to MovieCast, where this episode we are going to break down Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. Uh, and this is the up. Well, see, I just messed up everything. But anyway, we're joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr., or as Spider Rich, as he is known. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, Dana. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Wonderful. And we also have Mr. Danny Martinez. How are
What's
you?
up, people? How are you guys?
And wonderful. And so everyone here, we have seen Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. And by the way, what was your immediate reactions coming out of the theater? What did you guys think, Danny?
Emotional. It was so emotional. I was so satisfied and happy. There, lots to say, but that's pretty much the gist of how I felt coming out of it.
What about you, Richard?
I thought it was amazing, and I know some people will be angry when I say this, but I have to say this. This is the best Marvel movie I've seen recently. Was not a fan of Phase 4, and the last two movies for Phase 5. Thumbs down. This is the standard, in my opinion. This sets a new standard on its own, even though it's not even a part of these phases, as far as Marvel is concerned. But
It's not a Marvel movie, technically.
yeah.
But it is. It is in a way. It made itself a Marvel movie with this movie by connecting everything together. So it's a universal everything movie.
It gives me faith that Sony knows what they're doing with the license and why they have the ownership, and Marvel does not. So there you go. But continue.
Wait. With that said, though, remember they did have Marvel's help. Somewhat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But they are very smart. They're very smart to own a part of this and not have Marvel have full control, because I don't trust that Marvel would know how to handle this. But we'll see what happens when the Miles Morales movie comes out in the future. The live action movie.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Well, yeah, and then we'll touch upon how they already connected that. So for me, right away, I thought this was absolutely gorgeous, and not just that, it took it back to roots in terms of basic good storytelling. This was just basic good storytelling, and then they built upon that. When we came in with the art and the different scenarios and all these different characters and the cameos, to me that felt almost secondary. That story was just something that was of importance right away. So kind of diving into that story, what's really interesting is we shift narrative. We originally think that this is going to be another Miles Morales story told through Miles Morales, but instead it's Gwen Stacy who's kind of leading the charge. And so one of the big theories is this is her telling the story to the other Spider-Men to get them on board to help Miles. So how did you like that shift in narration?
I was expecting Miles. And yeah, we got a lot more Gwen, definitely. I really liked that development, and it took its time with character development, not just with Miles, but with Gwen. And even introducing the other ones, it happened really quick. But the main focus was Gwen, and I loved her more and more and more throughout the movie.
Richard?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything that Danny said. I like that they took their time to focus on every character. And again, I know a lot of times when you think of a movie, any type of Marvel movie or any type of superhero movie, you think, well, they have so many characters. How can they possibly fit all of this information into one movie? But they did it with every character. You learned a little bit about their backstory. Even some of the other characters we see later in the movie. So I thought they did a fantastic job with all of this.
Yeah, and then they also reversed the roles in terms of it was her Peter Parker who died, and and he was blamed for the murder. Usually it's always Gwen Stacy. Previously we had the movie with a neck snap and all the other ones before, so that was a very interesting twist on that. So kind of moving off of that, we end up with the Guggenheim Museum, which me as a New Yorker, they got so right. This was a definite like New York City movie, and we're introduced, to Vulture, which was from the Renaissance era. And so, how did you like? They merged in all of these different multiverses, starting off with the Renaissance Vulture, and then we ended up with Miguel, who is kind of knows everything that's going on within these universes. He's, in a way, you could say, this version of Doctor Strange, even though he hates Doctor Strange.
I like that they made that reference with Doctor Strange and the other annoying kid, from the movie, and they messed up the multiverse before. That was a really cool reference.
I agree. I think now this right here to me is one of the reasons why I think the movie is really good, because you got a feel for the entire universe in this movie. With having the different characters, different animation styles of certain characters, stuff like that. That's what I think to me is really what sets it apart from anything that Marvel has done in these multiverse movies, because you felt the weight of what was happening and it was on display. There were a lot of differences between like going to different settings, so on and so forth. It just felt like a different experience, even down to the stop motion animation we saw later in the in the movie with the other Lego Spider-Man, I guess you could say. All that stuff was just great. It felt like it was really, this is a really huge universe, so many different variations. So I have to give them credit for that.
Well, we can bounce kind of off of that with the different universes in terms of the animation, because you are an animator.
Yeah.
You studied all of this. So the different worlds that we had, where there was Gwen Stacy was always like a watercolor, maybe pastel, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we had, would you say that Our Mouths was more like a hard, I don't know how the term would be, more like a not hand drawn, but like a more hard lined approach? How was that style? What is that style you say?
That's a pretty good way to describe it. Like I said, I do have a degree in film animation video. I haven't really utilized that degree in full quite yet. But I will say, after watching this, I am definitely inspired to get back into doing more of that type of stuff. Yeah, the hard line stuff, that's the best way to describe it for that particular style.
I felt like it was more just comic booky. It was just so straight out of the comic book style, because the Gwen Stacy stuff was very much watercolor. You kind of see that in her issues in the comics, but not as clear, I guess, or as used as much, and it just fits perfectly because of her colors and everything. So the pastel watercolors just fits perfectly with her art style. And then the Vulture with looking like paper and stuff like that was really cool. It was strange to see like all the lines and stuff moving all around him, and it's kind of it's almost like sketching. It's almost like the artist was sketching as like Vulture was moving around and stuff, which was really cool.
And what was interesting with the designer's spot, it looked like he was being sketched as well. You could still see the lines, when you begin a drawing, and so you have those lines that you already make out in order to make the shapes. So It was really interesting seeing him as well. And then it was also interesting with Gwen. Anytime there was an emotion, it would change colors. Like when she went and hugged her father, you would see the whole scene just irradiate with a different color. So I thought that was really beautiful. And then when we get to the other Earth, what is it? 42. It's kind of almost like the comic book, but not.
Much darker tones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a world without Spider-Man, and I'm gonna say lack of hope. The whole city was basically on fire. So
it was a DC movie.
Uh-oh.
So the introduction of Miguel, being the leader of the Spider Society, and Jessica Drew, who was pregnant. A lot of people had an issue with her being pregnant. This is a cartoon, but being pregnant in this, And so how do you think about the introduction of Miguel and basically his quest of trying to keep the multiverse together? It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kang in a way.
He was very serious, very much different from Spider-Man. And they mentioned this in the movie. Like they were just like, "Hey, you're supposed to be funny like the rest of us," and he's not. He's very serious. He's very stoic. He's just like he's all business. It was a okay introduction to him. I'm a big fan of 2099, and I think they did him pretty well. I think it was Oscar Isaac was the voice, I believe it was, and he did really good with that too. And I'm loving, aside from Miles and Miles's mom, I love that they're representing more Spanish people. So that was really nice for even him to be speaking Spanish in the movie as well.
Richard?
Yeah, I agree. I just was gonna say, you said it's Oscar Isaac.
Oscar
Yeah,
Isaac.
he did a fantastic job. I mean, and I did not know that Issa Rae is the one that was playing Spider-Woman. So they did a fantastic job. I really love the representation of some of the other characters as well, because some of those other this is what I will say about the different Spider-Men and women, so on and so forth. They did such a fantastic job portraying all of them. I can see Sony saying, "Hey, we want to do a spinoff of this character. We want to do like a TV show or whatever of this character." I could totally see that. I would be totally invested in that. So, yeah, very, very, very good decisions. And then I think you're probably going to get into this later. Spider-Punk, right? That was Daniel Kaluuya
Love
who
him.
portrayed him. Yeah, that was fantastic also.
So yeah, with that, so we have that, and then we get Miles. We kind of circle. It centers back on Miles, and he's basically, he's still trying to be Spider-Man and the Miles himself at the same time, and there's balancing issues with that. And one of my favorite scenes, obviously, is the guidance counselor with him trying to go in with a college essay and thinking of what he can write and be. I really love the dynamic of, again, the two-parent household, both of them showing up for their kid to make sure everything is okay. It's really great, because you guys said representation, not only of that, but just family units in general. So with this Miles, he's still missing Gwen. He's missing everyone. He kind of feels abandoned at this point. And so when Gwen does come back, that friendship and that bond is right there. And it's really interesting how it plays out, because these two people, they really relate to each other. And you see this natural friendship just grow. So what did you think about, one, like the bond, and also just how they interacted with each other? And that also how they bridged their beautiful visuals.
Do you want to go first, Rich?
You said what did I think of their bond as characters?
Well, yeah, their bond as characters. They was desperately missing each other.
Yeah, I felt the genuine connection between both characters. I know they both have suffered loss, and that also helped them come together. I do say though, as with any relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romance, there's probably going to be some unfortunate things that happen that make you question whether or not you trust somebody. So I mean, I thought that was very natural as well, as far as how their relationship grows, but then how it has ups and downs throughout the entirety of this whole movie. But yeah, I love their chemistry together. And again, as Gwen Stacy says, she cannot have a relationship with Peter Parker because he always dies in her storyline. And so, I mean, yeah, I like how they did all that in terms of how they flipped it around. But it makes you wonder what's going to happen after this, whether or not they are going to actually get together or are they just going to be friends. Because it's very much teased that this could be more than friendship. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out.
What about you, Danny?
I love the chemistry, definitely between the both of them. I was rooting for them the entire time. But Gwen did make a point in the movie that was very true, is that tragedy always happens when you put together a Spider-Man and a Gwen. And she wants to play cautious and rather play it safe and just not get into that mess. And it was a really nice, touching moment when they're both upside down. I think it was on a Chrysler building, I believe, and they were sitting there and they were talking about that stuff. And then he was about to go for that hand, and then she was just like, "Oh yeah, something always happens with the Gwen and whatnot." And then he kind of pulls back, and it's like that emotion was just like, "Oh, he was so close." And we're just waiting for that moment where they have that moment where they finally just say "F it" and they just take the risk. I'm waiting for that moment. We don't get that yet, of course, but I love that they're building on that as well.
Right. So then we finally get our first world that we get to see. It was Mumbat. It's the Indian Mumbatan. So it's like
Yeah,
Manhattan, but it's Mumbatan.
Manhattan.
And yeah, so we're introduced to Prevatar. You probably botched that, but Spider-Man India.
Yeah.
So that style and that design was just. How did you guys feel about that? And his introduction. The actor who played that is the member in Deadpool, the cab driver.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. Nice.
It all connects.
So let me just say, I was blown away with that because I didn't really know they were going to, like when I saw they were going to switch to another location, I didn't know that they was going to go there until they had actually stated that. But then when I saw it, I said, this is fantastic. You know, I love the representation in this movie. You know, they tried to represent every type of person, culture, background, so on and so forth. But I really enjoyed this version of Spider-Man. And even in that short period of time, again, when you go back to how they managed the time with each character, they gave you enough about his backstory, the fact that he has this girl that he's into, but then the fact that she has a father who's also a captain. The way all that came together, just, yeah, they did a fantastic job on that. And again, this is a character where I do not mind seeing this character have a spinoff, whether it's a cartoon series or even a movie. But we'll see what their plans are for him beyond just this movie and the next Spider-Verse movie.
See, isn't it crazy how they can throw so much at you so quickly, and yet it still works? Like you still invested in that character, because I can feel like if this was some other movie, people would complain that, oh, you know, his character development happened too fast, too much is going on too soon, yada yada, and then like people can't invest in the character. But this movie does it so well because it's not just throwing his backstory so quickly within like 2-3 minutes, but also the character himself. He's so charismatic, and all the other characters as well. They're so charismatic, and the voice acting is so well done that it's just like, oh, this is cool representation for everybody. Everybody can like relate to somebody in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I agree. And then also forgot to introduce, we got Spot running around. He is the reason for this movie. You know, at first I was like, Spot is not going to be a good villain. What is he going to do? Suck everyone in his holes? But he was mind blowing. It was mind blowing of how you saw how they connected. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I just want to say I had the exact same mindset as you when I saw this. They introduced the villain at the start of the movie. I'm like, first and foremost, you know, I love the fact that it's a villain that I'm not aware of. Like, I don't know if this villain has been in the comics. It's the first time that I've seen the villain. So I was very much, you know, I like that they took that risk of introducing a new villain. But then the entire movie, not only did they sell you on the fact that this is a legit villain, but they made the character three-dimensional. So you understand the origin of that character's story and how Spider-Man was connected as well. It's very well done how they put that together, because you kind of understand the motivation for what he is doing, the fact that he lost everything, but at the same time, you still got to root for the good guy to take him down. But I like how they made you care about all aspects of the character, not just the fact that you want to take him down, but we also need to understand why he feels this way, why he hates Miles, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the connection in a weird way. Yeah.
That's what I was going to mention. Go ahead if you want to keep going on that.
No, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, that there was still character development with him as well, and they fit it into the original, the last movie as well, how he was involved and why he hates him. And to answer your question before, Rich, he is in the comics, and he's very much a C tier villain. Like he's not
Oh,
a great villain, which is they mention that in the movie also. It's just like, oh yeah, you're not that big of a deal, and it kind of gets to him, and things get worse and worse because they kind of just ignore him. Um, the voice actor Jason Schwartzman, I knew he was going to be a good villain because I'm a big fan of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and he was the main villain there. And he was a very nerdy villain, but he still came off very maniacal. So I think that kind of fit very well with him.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that the dynamic between them kind of reminds me of Batman and Joker. You can't have one without the other. They both have to coexist in that same environment. You know, they if you look at, they literally made each other.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what I really liked about that. And you know, as he starts off really silly with robbing the ATM, don't say machine, but it's just really silly. He's robbing the ATM, and then you see him become more and more serious and more darker. And with that, with the animation, his holes kind of they fill in more, and they become more black overall. I guess maybe so it represents, that all-consuming anger that he has as he's trying to get that energy for. So to me, how they did that was just brilliant. And then also, when we're in India, we're introduced to, as you guys were saying previously, with Spider-Punk, which to me, he stood out the best.
Yep.
So how did you guys feel about Hobie, who was the voice, as you said, Daniel Kaluuya, who is like an anti-government, anti-everything, but in a weird way, you can say is a mentor to Spider-Man. Well, Miles Morales is Spider-Man.
He's the bad boy influence, but like in a good way for Spider-Man, because there is the I don't even know what kind of Peter Parker they call him, the one with the robe, and he's a dad now. I don't know if he has a particular Peter B. Parker. Yeah, it's Peter B. Parker, right? Yeah, so so he's like the good angel on like Miles' shoulder, at least the way I see it. And then like Spider-Punk is like the bad angel here, but like they're both meaning to guide him properly in some sort of way. And I really like what they did with him with Spider-Punk, because I wasn't expecting a lot from him. I thought he was just gonna be a cool little intro, a cool little like action scene, and that's it. But he was awesome. He stole the show.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely stole the show. From the very beginning, they introduced him. That stood out, because I did hear that Daniel Kaluuya was going to play this role. This news came out, I think, prior to the movie coming out. So I wanted to see, because I was trying to figure out when we were going to see him in the movie. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. And again, like you said, Danny, yeah, he served a very big purpose, because even to the very end, he is the reason for what happens later on in the movie, how Gwen is able to all of a sudden come back and try to save Miles. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that character in the future. That's, again, another character I would not mind some type of cartoon or a spin-off movie or whatever, because there's a lot you can explore with his world as well.
Right. And then also with the animation, it was really cool how he was drawn when he had the mask on. And then when he took it off, it was like a paper. It looked like paper. Like you would see like newspaper clippings, like in dive bars. He looked like a dive bar.
Yeah.
In a way. So that was really fascinating of how they made him. And in the hair, I really liked how they just did, everyone was completely different, and how they did their hair, and his hair was just amazing.
Yeah.
So I did not expect much from Spider-Punk. But then once he took that hat off, the mask off, like, who is this? What's going on? So, yeah. And then that's when we end up, Miguel is just completely angry at this point, and we end up traveling back to Spider Society. And this is when we're introduced to the 255,800 million different spider people. So, no, it's like you would lose count. So I guess unless you guys like know of anyone particular, we can we had Insomniac Spider-Man,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
from the video game.
Yeah.
So that was incredible. We definitely had, there was Lady Spider-Man, there was the pigs was running around. We had Spider Car, which was cool. Spider Cat, which I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
They had the cowboy Spider-Man also with the horse.
Yeah. And like the Clint Eastwood stare down thing, which was incredible. And then, of course, we get into the really big ones where we have Tobey Maguire, we have Tom Holland, and then the biggest, like, oh my God moment was Donald Glover as the Prowler captured, which kind of makes sense in a way if we're doing live action. So everything now connects. All of the movies, all of everything, the TV shows, anything that Spider-Man connects. So this to me, I think, is how we get to our Spider-Man 4.
I wanted to explain the Donald Glover thing a little bit, not necessarily for you guys, but for anybody else watching, because my wife was very confused when she saw Donald Glover as the Prowler, and she didn't get the reference. So, like, if you watch the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, not
Homecoming.
is it Homecoming?
Homecoming.
Yes. So Donald Glover makes a cameo there, and he gets interrogated by Spider-Man, and he gets like webbed on the back of his car. And afterwards, when Spider-Man's gone, he makes a call, and he makes a call to Miles Morales, and he's like, "Hey, nephew, I'm gonna be a little bit late because I'm stuck or whatever it may be." So that hinted at the fact that that's his uncle, which in turn makes him the Prowler. So that's why they did that little bit of a teaser in the movie as well, which is really cool. So like they tie into that live action stuff. I think he'd make a great Prowler, honestly.
And also with them announcing, we know that Spider-Man 4 is popping off, and we'll get into a deep dive later on with all of the different live action movies they announced. But to me, I thought that was like the direct thread of how we get there. So yay. So yeah, we're introduced to like the 5,000 different spider people. And I thought that that's when we get the pointing scene, because this is the moment when it's really heavy, supposed to be serious, when we learn that every moment is supposed to happen. It's canon, and by them being in India and them actually successfully rescuing all of the people, they forever changed their stories. Where it would be Gwen Stacy's version. So what was her name? I forgot what her name was, but the captain, none of the captains die. And it was supposed to be, the captain is supposed to die, and that did not happen because they saved everyone. And this is when Miles realizes, my dad, he's about to be promoted to captain. That means he's going to die. And this is when he decides to, you can say, take fate into his own hands, despite Miguel saying, this has to happen. And then this is a really interesting part for me with Miguel's situation. He explains the whole anomaly situation. Like, you can't, this is something that has to happen. And that's how we end up getting, basically, he's a hypocrite at this moment. You could argue, because remember, his version died. And he came in and replaced him. And he's trying to, you can almost say, stop Miles from doing what he did. And the thing is, we don't know how that turned him, how that changed him. We just know that, well, he did it. He doesn't want other people to do it as well. And there was like a moment where when he was looking back at the video, the flashback, it seemed like his face was kind of peeling. Maybe?
Yeah, you're talking about Miguel.
Yeah, Miguel.
Yeah, so if you notice throughout the entire movie, he's transforming a bit more evil villain-ish type of look. I like to think it's because of him developing as somewhat of the main villain of the movie, but it's also because in the Spider-Man lore for him, he's without him actually being a vampire, he is a vampire. his mutation for his spider genes when he became Spider-Man, he has to suck blood, plasma. He has to that's how he satiates himself and stabilizes himself. So I kind of feel like and they really didn't go in deep into this. Like they have one moment in the movie where he's about to bite the vulture, so there's that quick vampire moment. But then there's another moment where I think it's maybe it's Spider-Punk, but I can't remember who, but someone calls him a vampire. And that's all we get from the lore of Miguel. And I was just like, they don't touch on it even more. So my assumption is that he's more becoming evil looking because he hasn't been feeding this entire time.
I thought it was a Morbius joke the whole time.
So can I ask a question? Is it possible we'll see him morph into that version in the next movie? Because obviously I think there's going to be another confrontation between him and Miles at some point.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to slip up and probably bite someone he shouldn't have.
See, I thought it was like him literally being erased because it's like being peeled off.
I don't know, maybe. I mean that's what I was getting out of it. Again, they didn't touch on that aspect of his character that well, so I don't really know like what they were doing with that.
So then also, we have him basically trying to save his father. No, I'm jumping all around. So if there's stuff that I missed, please, correct me. But we see him, he's trying to get back to his home, and there's a lot of things that ends up happening, and where we discover the huge plot twist of everything regarding that his home is not his home is his home, but he's not who he's supposed to be. He is an anomaly because we have to go back, and if you actually go back to the Spider-Man, what is it, Into the Spider-Verse, you will see that Miles was sitting in class, and he was not supposed to be bitten. It was that whole bagel scene where they're being chased. He hits the guy in the head with a bagel, which there's a lot of bagel references, which is a reference to Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I guess their multiverse connects to everything in terms of connecting. But we're just bringing in all of the movies. But that's when we learned that he was not supposed to be bitten. It was supposed to go to Earth, was it 65? And that Miles.
The spider was 42, so the spider belonged to Universe 42. So that the Universe 42 is the one where they're supposed to have a Spider-Man, and there's not.
Because it went to 65, which is Miles.
Yeah.
Which also, if you could, it foreshadows. Remember when he was at the party at his father's you got promoted party, and his shirt says 42. A lot of people are like, oh, that's Jackie Robinson. That's actually the connection to the other world.
Wow.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, there's Easter eggs everywhere. See, I'm slow on the big parts, but the little things I get.
See, this is why this is the type of movie you probably have to see another time. Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it a second time. I just don't know when, but yeah, you have to see it because even in some of the action sequences, you had the comic language when other characters say certain stuff that flashes on the screen real quick. So a lot of this stuff you definitely would catch if you watch it a second time.
I want to watch it again just so I can catch more Spider-Man cameos because there's got to be more that I know. Like I noticed there's like Spider Cat. There was the Spider Tyrannosaurus Rex, which don't ask me why or how, but I know the backstory to that one. And there's Bagman. So I don't know if you noticed a Spider-Man with the paper bag on his head. That one is a lore thing too. And I want to think that there's one that came out of the Portal when they were first introducing like the specialized team. There was one that was dressed all in white. She looked like a Future Foundation Spider-Man, which is a Spider-Man from I think the Ultimate series of the comic books. He joins the Fantastic Four. So that was a really cool one to throw in there as well. So like, yeah, I want to go back and watch it just for like those cameos.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know there was Penny Parker. There was Patrick O'Hara, which was the one with the horse. Then they had the Spider-Man video game, Peter Parker, the Insomniac Games one. Then I think there was Miles Morales video game in that one as well.
Ooh, I didn't catch that.
Then we had the Spider Therapist one. Then there was Spider UK, which was Malalia, the one that was had the wrap on. There was Spider-Man 2211, which I don't know that one. Then there was Spider Noir, which we know is Nicolas Cage.
Yes, yes.
The pig, Spider Pig was back. There was Spider Woman, the Julia Carper one. There was Canadian Spider Woman, Samurai. Oh my God, Spider Kingpin.
What?
Interesting. Yes, Captain Spider, which was Flash Thompson, becomes Spider-Man. Maybe Mabel L. Riley, which is Lady Spider-Man. Mary Jane Parker, which is the daughter. So remember, Peter's daughter actually grows up to become a Spider Woman. There was Spider Cop. There was one that was like a spider, like a literal tarantula. There was the T-Rex, as you said, Spider Cat, Spider Monkey, which would be interesting. Spider Wolf, and then the car, Spider Mobile. Yeah. Which is actually from the comics. It's a lot. But that's, and then, it's like they said there was over 219 Spider people. So that is a fun Easter egg for everyone to figure that out. And then, so we had that, and so he's explaining everything. The guy is like, basically, he's learning that he's not supposed to be him. And then on top of that, everyone knew but him. So my thing is, why would you keep that a secret from him? And it creates more of a mess, because you could have easily sent him home. Well, you didn't want to send him home because he would try to stop the incursion. Well, I guess we would call it incursion, but it's not an incursion. It's completely different than an incursion, but stop the event. So they tell him anyway, and this is his rush of trying to get back home, and then you realize he's been sent to where the spider bit him, which would be Earth 42. And this is when we get this is when like automatically you could see something was off. The drawings were a little off. And that's when he's talking to his mom, and his mom, I'm Spider-Man. And she's like, what? I don't understand what you're doing. And the big thing is like, oh, you cut your hair, you took your braids out. And I didn't catch it at first. But it's like, you took your braids out and you cut your hair. And then that's when he starts glitching. And every time he glitches, we know he's in the wrong universe. So that moment, when was that moment when you figured out, oh, there's something wrong?
I would say when his mom said, "Who is Spider-Man?" I said, really? "Oh, yeah," because I said, "Oh, so you don't know who Spider-Man is?" So that says, okay, so something is up with that. Then the glitching, obviously, at that point, okay, yeah, he's not home. That's when I figured it out.
Yeah, that actually slipped by me. I was overthinking it too much. When she said who's Spider-Man, I thought he was still in the right world, but maybe something just messed up and something was like overwritten and like the timeline changed or something like that. So I was overthinking the whole thing. So I don't even remember. I think it was the moment when he did glitch was when I was just like, oh, he's not in the right place. So that was more obvious.
Oh yeah, but also you saw his uncle. And then that, again, because we know the uncle is dead in the other world, so it says, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, this is a totally different." So I guess his uncle is now with the mother. I mean, I don't know.
No, I never viewed it that way.
Okay, well,
no,
maybe
I mean
it's possible. It's possible. I didn't catch that, but it is possible still because I think he maybe just was trying to be
Helping
the
her
big
out.
brother and take care of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I viewed it, but I didn't realize it until he started glitching, and then when the mom didn't realize like who was Spider-Man, I didn't think it as like, oh, he's in another world. I thought of it like, you know how parents just don't pay attention to certain things, and like kids would be like, oh, I'm all in the know,
Yeah.
listen to Cardi B, and they're like, well, what's the Cardi B? So I just thought it was like a natural response. But yeah, so then the uncle, so they go into the roof when you could see that this is a world without Spider-Man because the Spider-Man that was supposed to be Spider-Man was never Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And instead we got the Prowler, which, has a completely different look and a feel. He's with braids. I'm like, this is the Wu-Tang Shamik Moore that came out. So,
Actually,
what did you guys?
Since you mentioned that, one of the things that I really, really appreciate, and I don't know, Rich, if you're from New York or been to New York like for a long extended period of time.
Yeah, I have family in New York. I'm from Boston, unfortunately. I guess that's the
Okay.
rival of New York.
Yeah, right. But the reason why I ask is, and I know Dana would agree with me, is that Miles was very New York. And I'm talking about not even just his accent, but his mannerisms, like the way he moved around and swayed and all this and stuff. And like the way he talked with his mom in particular ways, the little Spanglish that came in and out all the time between the both of them. Like all of that was very, very New York. And I really, really appreciated that the most about it.
That is very true. And this Miles kind of reminded me of a New York, but like one of those darker ones, like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
I'm, like one of those, like those tough areas, but a good one with its own separate swagger.
Yeah.
And I really liked how he just came in. It was like, we don't know what's going on, but our Miles can kind of do a little spark thing. He can shoot out electricity, and that's when he was trying to, and then it cuts to Gwen kind of. And then we got Gwen. So this is when we realized the whole story is told through Gwen, because this is when she's talking to. We had Spider-B, who failed him basically, Mayday, the Spider-Man India, Hobby, which is basically the Spider-Punk, Noir is back. Penny and Spider-Ham. So it's like the core original group from the first Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. So, and they all like agree, we got to go and help him. And so, it was really interesting. So what do you think of that ending and then that team up?
Rich?
Go after all of the others.
Well, let me just say, the reaction in my theater at that ending, there was a lot of people growling like, "Oh, come on, man, don't end it like this." But clearly, we already knew that this is a 2-part movie. So,
people not doing their research before they watch this movie.
Oh no, they absolutely aren't. They absolutely aren't. No, I think it was an excellent way to end the movie. As for the team up, I can't wait to see that team together. I do, however, want to have a prediction, because I think I kind of can see this coming, and I may not be the only one that thinks this. I think that Peter B is not going to survive the next movie, because this was Miles' mentor, right? And he had that whole thing about when they were chasing after him, and he said, "No, you were the motivation as to why I had my daughter." So I kind of feel like he feels most responsible for not really telling Miles what was happening. So I could see that character sacrificing himself in the next movie. That's what my guess is, but we'll see what happens. Because was it in the last movie that Peter Parker died, or they had the grave site, but then you found
he died.
He's not. Okay, so that's a possibility, but we'll have to wait and see.
You're breaking my heart. I don't want that to happen. Oh man, that's so good though. That's really good.
So yeah, you got, and then it would also, would have a ripple effect. We have this Spider-Man. This Spider-Man is dead, and the previous Peter Parker, he's dead. So
yeah,
it would make, and then he had like this special moment with his daughter. So
Yeah. See, and that's why I say it, because the speech that Miguel gave earlier in this movie, where he says that there are good and bad things that have to happen. So you know something bad is going to happen in the next movie. It's just a matter of what it is that's going to actually happen. But I could see something happening because they did save the people in this movie. I could see somebody not making it out of the next movie, but I don't know who that is going to be, or we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Miles is going to be fine, but the other characters are the ones that could go. But we'll have to see what happens.
Gwen could go.
Well,
they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
We know. Well, one point I will mention, since you did mention her, we did saw that when she came back, she did tell her father. Well, she told her father before.
I'll be back.
She told him that she'll be back. He already knew that she was Spider-Woman, so to speak, or Spider-Gwen. But the thing is that you found out because of the ripple effect of what happened when they did that save the people in India. He decided, oh, I'm not going to be on the force anymore. So he's no longer a captain. He didn't go for the captain thing now. So that changes his future as well. So I'm curious to see how this is going to change other outcomes for other characters. That's what I'm waiting to see. So we have to see what happens to Miles' father in the next movie.
This was one of those things that I did have a problem with in the movie. Is it that easy? Is it really that easy? Like, you just tell the dad say no to being a captain and it saves his life. Like, I found that very odd that they chose that route of like, oh, like as soon as a significant person in your life becomes captain, they have to die, or else the entire multiverse collapses, or their reality collapses and stuff. I found that a bit strange. I mean, still great motivation for Miles to go and save his dad, but like I was just like, you're just gonna find his dad and just say no. Just tell him to say no. That's it. I'm done.
I agree. I agree 100% on that. This is why I think if it was a situation where the character is going to die anyway, so if the father dies anyway, he's not captain, whatever, that would be that would make a lot more sense. That he was going to die regardless of whether or not he got the promotion. That makes a lot more sense. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But to me, this is when it connects to What If Doctor Strange, because someone has to die. And remember, with him, Christy had to die. And even though he kept going and trying to save her, she kept dying until it consumed him, which you could argue is what's happening to Spot and what's happening to Miguel now that he's peeling away and turning into a vampire. He's dead. So I wonder if, I quit the police force, but a random stray bullet, gets him, a car accident, something, he trips and falls and breaks his neck, he still has to die. So,
well, yeah, I don't know. We have to see what happened. But the other thing too, and how they can play around with this, is that the Spot character said that he wanted to take everything away from Miles. So even if he doesn't go after Miles, is it not out of the question that he can try to take out his mom? Because again, both his mom is important to him and his father. Okay, so I think they both will be on the table as being in trouble right now. Because you did see when he went back to where he thought was his home, he did warn her and say, "We got people coming after us." And she's like, "What are you talking about? And who was the Spider-Man?" So that's why I say we have to see which route they go. But both of them, I think, are in trouble for sure. Both his parents are in trouble.
I agree.
I view them as interchangeable.
Yeah.
So then, kind of going off of that, yeah. Oh no, do you have anything else?
No. I was in agreement with the whole thing as well, because there's something in the comics as well where they kind of, it's very brief, but they touch on the fact that, like, if you notice, every version of Spider-Man had a Ben, and they all have to die. He has to have this tragic moment of a loved one in order for him to become Spider-Man. And a lot of people can kind of chalk it up to like, oh, the Prowler, his uncle, was his Uncle Ben, and that's what made him more of a Spider-Man that he wanted to be. But they could still do that twist and be like, oh, it has to be his dad or his mom. to be that moment for him, to really like he has that resolve of just like, yeah, he is Spider-Man. He has to make that sacrifice, and this is just what he has to do. So I do feel like there's still going to be some tragedy that's needed for him.
Mm-hmm.
They can take both out.
Oh, why would you do
No, it
that?
would be.
That might be too much.
Well, him in the live action version can run around moping together with Peter Parker.
You know,
Nobody knows him.
Speaking of that live action, though, like, you know, Richard is given some predictions for like a next movie or future movies and stuff like that. Oh, you got a Buster. The prediction was for me was they really they showed that stream of all the multiverses that you see in the MCU movie now, like with the multiverse and everything. They hinted at the multiverse that's involved with the MCU, and I kind of feel like they're hinting at the fact that they're going to introduce this Miles Morales, the ones that we know and love. He is going to be the Miles Morales for the MCU. Like he's somehow going to find his way into a live action world, and we're going to get our live action Miles Morales, but he's still the same Miles Morales. I feel like that's where they're going with at some point.
Well, then that makes sense because the introduction of Prowler, Donald Glover.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that makes sense. I do want to say this though, and I hope that now if they take that route, I think I'm okay with that. If they decide we're going to create this MCU version and this is a totally different from what we've seen in this movie, I hope that the story is different because I don't want to see them recreate the same story over again.
Yeah,
with just a different actor playing the character. So I'm hoping that if they do this, I like your idea of them continuing with the version that we've already seen. But yeah, I guess we have to wait and see. We're not going to probably get that movie until I guess 2026, 27. It's a while.
Yeah, it'll be a while
from now. Yeah.
I do, because I know we're not gonna have Tom Holland forever, and he's gonna get older and he's gonna want to move on at some point. And I don't know how they were gonna like transition from one Spider-Man to another. And if they were, they probably transition from the red Spider-Man to the black Spider-Man. And I don't want them to it'll be crappy for Miles for him to go through that moment again where Spider-Man dies and he has to take over the reins as Spider-Man again. So they'll kill off Tom Holland, and then whoever they choose for Miles, like now he has to take over. Like he has to deal with another Spider-Man death. That'll be nuts for me.
Oh, I agree. I think the fans will be the Tom Holland fans will not be happy to see that happen if it does go in that direction. I don't know. They have a lot they have to answer with that, but what I know we can say, however, because I believe that this story did come out recently, that Spider-Man 4 movie is on hold because of the writer's strike.
Yep.
So I guess we have to wait and see what the end result of that is, but I'm looking forward to it for sure.
But going with that, I do feel that this is how you could, because we know they all connect in a way. Mm-hmm. So what happens if we have Tom meet our Miles Morales that, from the cartoon series no, this is not the series, the cartoon, well, no, it's animated. But the point is, if you look at where Peter Parker is right now, he's by himself, he's alone, he's at that street level, right? They all connect, and they showed and they explained how they're able to connect with the spider sense, which is explain how they were able to connect with No Way Home, really.
Mm-hmm.
So what if those two teamed up, and you can say, because now the video games are canon, we end up with what they're doing in Spider-Man 2, we end up with that as live action. Could that work?
I think it'll be too soon to introduce Miles live action to coincide with the game. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but I don't even know if they have any plans for a live action Miles. I think it's mostly just wishful thinking.
No, they announced it.
That they're doing a live action.
Oh, no, this is what they announced.
Oh, how's that going to turn
out?
Live
action Miles.
Yeah, y'all got me excited now.
They got Miles. They have live action Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Spider Noir is going to be a live action series on Prime Video, so Amazon is doing it. Nick Cage is not attached. Everyone was so.
Oh, what?
And then we have Spider-Man 4, which Tom Holland announced, and we already knew that.
Yeah.
And then there is, what is that one that's coming out with Dakota Johnson?
Oh, Madam Web.
Madam Web. And remember, the plot for that is they go back through time trying to kill Spider-Man's parents.
Huh.
So that he's never born. And that's Sony, which I'm going to assume it connects. So it's a lot of spider people at the same time.
A lot of Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So with this writer strike, it gives us a breather. But
oh yeah, it gives us a breather. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of questions about how they're going to connect some stuff. There's also that Kraven the Hunter project that is being worked on, and it just so happened that Kraven is in the Spider-Man 2 game. But that is not. I don't think that's connected per se. That's probably just a different version, Insomniac's version of the character. Because Spider-Man 2.
We got him in here.
Was that what?
And he was in this one. Well, not the actor's version, but Kraven was in one of the holding cells, the prisoners.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was. Yeah, you're right. He was. So looking forward to seeing how all this comes together. But yeah, this is a good time. If you're a Spider-Man fan, this is a good time. It's a lot to look forward to.
One of the worlds he went to was Venom, and regarding Venom, remember he went to the
grocery store, the convenience store, bodega,
the grocery store, where Miss Chen, I hope I pronounced that right. Well, she was there, and she was, basically sick of everything. But we have that, and we do know from Venom 2 that remember when he was sent back, he was in Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. Remember he was watching the TV, and then when he got sent back, a little symbiote, it fell off of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's running amok in there. So we have a lot of connections that could be the villain. We don't know for Spider-Man 4.
Yeah.
If they go that route.
Definitely.
There's so much going on. I still worry how Sony sometimes handles their IP because from their past Spider-Man movies, they have this habit of they're raising in the ticket sales and all that stuff, and then usually by like the third movie they like to throw in a little bit too much going on into their movies. Yep. Like, Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire is just like too many villains, too much stuff going on. Everything starts to dip down. And then the same thing starts to happen with the other Amazing Spider-Man guy, I forget his name, Andrew Garfield. So by the second movie, not even the third movie, by the second movie, they're throwing in too much stuff. You got the Lizard, you've got they teased the Sinister Six, and then you had the god-awful Green Goblin that was in the end of that movie, and ticket sales went down again. It's just like Sony can't quite figure it out unless Marvel's kind of involved to kind of like guide them along a bit.
And then also don't forget Morbius, because Morbius is connected.
Oh yeah. Well, wait a second. Well, hold on, Dana. You said that was one of your favorite movies that you saw
of all time, Oscar worthy.
Of all time. That was an Oscar. I'm still upset. I campaigned hard for that. Jared Leto, when I interviewed him, he said that the villain is going to be Mozart and Jesus. So I'm ready for Jesus.
I need Morbius too, Electric Boogaloo.
So yeah, we got that. So it ends up being really interesting. And I really liked how they did the branches, the sacred branches, which is a connection to Quantumanium.
Yep.
What? No, not What If. No, could you argue What
They did it
trying
in
to
What
remember
If,
if it was branches.
Quantumania, Endgame. They
Loki,
touched on a
'cause
couple of Loki. Yeah.
Loki definitely, and you could see that the branch, even though ours was more like a straight line and then it branched out, this one is more like a tree.
Mm.
So they're not the same name, but it's the same thing. So it's just different names. And if you noticed, and when they traveled in the different worlds, like there's different sodas had different names. What we would call soda, they called pop in one universe. Remember there was the Pokemon card, but it was like a reverse. It was like a certain name. You do you know the Poke People,
I didn't catch that one.
Danny? Yeah, there
I
was
know.
a Pokemon card, but they call it a different name. And I forgot the name of it, but it's like a version, but it's not. It's the same thing, but a different name
Okay.
for Pokemon. So, yeah. So the tree, the branches would look different, but it's the same concept. So what I wanted to know was with what's going on with both the well, you have King. You could argue Doctor Strange's what if version, maybe not, but also with Thanos. Do you consider Miguel to be a villain? Because if you look at it, all of those people, well, aside from Doctor Strange, forget Doctor Strange for a moment, they were trying to work for the greater good. It was misguided, but it was all the greater good. Ken is trying to literally stop the multiverses from happening, from branching and destroying each other, which is the same thing of what Miguel is doing by stopping all of the not incursions but incursions from happening, even though he's more of a hypocrite. Then you had Thanos, who was trying to just make sure everyone had equal resources. So they all operated in the greater good. Is Miguel a villain then?
Rich, you want to go first?
You asking me, do I think that Miguel is a villain?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he is a villain, at least by the end of this movie, clearly, because he wants to stop Miles from going back to save his father. Now, as you have mentioned earlier, he's a bit of a hypocrite because we learn about his backstory. But I would say this is why I want to see what the resolution is that they're going to come to in this next movie. Because if he is the villain, they already have Spot, right? Spot is a threat to everybody, so you need to take him out. But that's the question: is Miles going to have to take him out? Is he going to have to deal with Miguel also? We're going to have to see. But I kind of feel like at some point Miguel is going to further understand Miles, and therefore he's not really going to be that much against him, and he'll try to help him out. But again, I don't know, because by the end of this movie, he's lost it. You know, like if you watch wrestling, this is like Roman Reigns. He is now the tribal chief. He's in charge now. He's power hungry. It feels that way by the end of the movie. So I want to see where they're going with that character.
Acknowledge me.
Yeah.
So then Miles just kicked them in the face and betrayed them. No, it would be Gwen Stacy who kicked them in the face.
Yes. But I will say this. I do think that Spider-Woman is probably going to turn on him next, because that was the one that was very close with Gwen. And you saw at the end when she was, again, they were spying on Gwen and all this other stuff. I kind of feel like she kind of understands Gwen, kind of roots for her to a degree. So I could see her turning on him in the future. Once again, a betrayal, so to speak. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. We're not going to get our answers until next year. I think that's when the next one is coming out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Danny.
For the question about him being a villain, I honestly
Is he a villain?
I don't think so. And that's mostly because, so you're right about those other villains like Kang and Thanos. They had good intentions. They just went about it the wrong way. I feel like with Miguel, it's more of he has good intentions and he's doing it the way he knows how, because he has already experienced it himself the wrong way. So I feel like that he's misguided, but he's genuinely trying to save all these universes, versus like Thanos. In the end, he destroyed trillions of people in order to achieve his goal. Even though it's a good-hearted thing to do, his way of doing it was killing trillions and trillions of people. With Kang, he destroyed billions and billions of worlds and realities and civilizations just to stop his other selves. That's still not the way to go. But with Miguel, he's literally just trying to save everyone and everything. Like, one life should not cost, an entire world, is his point of view on it.
But then that bleeds.
To happen.
That bleeds into Miguel's other stance of your one life, with your dad, saving your one dad is coming at a cost of others.
Right.
So are they both being selfish?
I mean, that's tough. I don't know how I would feel about, like, if I loved my dad and needed to save him. I don't know if that would be, if I was willing to take that chance to save him and destroy my entire reality. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. I mean, because then what's the point? Like, you save him and then the reality gets destroyed anyways, and then they're all dead. So nothing gets saved. Right. So Miguel's right.
You see, I think this is going to be a very interesting dynamic, because I mean, as a viewer watching the movie, and you saw that Miguel went out his way to save the people in India, which was good that he did that. But you kind of feel like there has to be some consequence from him doing that. That's why I don't know what that consequence is. Maybe he does save his dad, but maybe something happens to Gwen. I mean, it feels like something has to happen as a result of him doing this, because again, then it would make Miguel's whole explanation won't mean anything. If you do something and then something bad happens, it has to give weight to that. So I want to see what they're going to do in the next one, because I feel like something has to happen with Miles.
So then at that moment, remember when Gwen was like holding on to Miles when they was in India and he was trying to go and save the bus? She was basically saying no. He just interpreted it as like, go. What would you, they prevented, I think this would have been easily solved in a way if she would have just told him. Or do you think that would have been too much of a burden for him to know that basically I'm a mistake?
Well, they had to get to a point in this movie where there was a major conflict in Revelations. So I understand why she wouldn't tell him that at that particular moment in time. But I'm also curious, if she did tell him that and he didn't save, how would the Indian Spider-Man feel knowing that, I had my other allies here who didn't even help me at this particular time? I think that will also question how he would view them as well. So I kind of think he made the right decision to save the people. But I do believe in order for Miguel's point to make sense, something bad has to happen to Miles. He has to have some type of bad thing. I'm not saying it needs to be his father getting killed, but something bad is going to happen as a result of him doing all this stuff.
Well, if you look at who he's connected or who he's close to, it's his parents.
Yeah.
You can argue Spider-Punk, and I will riot if he dies. You can argue Spider-Punk, because he is, in that way, as you guys said, a misguided mentor, but he's a mentor. He was the whole reason as to why Gwen was able to get away, because of that bootleg portal thing that he made. And the fact that he's now joined the team. And he's like, when you look at it, anarchists don't really join in teams. That defeats the whole purpose of why he quit the Spider Society. And we're like, no, I gotta join them instead. So
yeah,
those are the only people that I can see, that and Gwen. So to me, it feels like one of those or multiple ones of those have to die. The parents, Gwen Stacy, and Spider-Punk, but I will riot if it's Spider-Punk.
I don't think it would be Spider-Punk. I think we as the audience would be hurt if he died, but I don't think he means much to Miles compared to Gwen or the parents. So I think it's got to be out of those three, unless a Ben just shows up out of nowhere for no reason and they would just kill him.
Yeah, so kind of like wrapping this up here, are there any predictions for the Beyond the Spider-Verse?
I have one. This is a bit out there. The version of Miles Morales that we introduced that is the Prowler, I would like to see him go to Miles' real world to see how he has that dynamic. Because again, that'll be kind of interesting, right? He goes there instead, and of course the parents going to be like, wait a second, what did you do with your hair? Why do you have cornrows? You know, you can ask that question. I kind of think because again, his father died, right? So if he goes into that universe, he sees, oh, his father is alive again. I'm kind of curious what that would do to him, but I don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, that character is nothing's going to happen to that character. I don't believe that Prowler version, but they definitely need to. I want to see where they're going with this, because it kind of feels like it's possible he can show up in the other universe as well, but have to wait and see.
I think they are in the next movie going to focus on the evil Miles. But I think my prediction is the twist is that the spider that was supposed to bite someone in this universe 42 was still supposed to be that Miles Morales. And so he still should have been Spider-Man, which in turn, our Miles Morales, the good one, he is meant to be Spider-Man, because technically the spider still bit a Miles Morales. So I feel like in the next movie we're gonna find out that he is meant to be Spider-Man, in some twisted way, and he's gonna accept it and be happy with that. So I think 42 universe 42 Miles was meant to be the Spider-Man, but obviously the spider wasn't there. So in turn, he just turns into a bad guy. And I feel like they are going to touch on that, and they're going to touch on like maybe developing the evil Miles back to being a good guy, knowing this information. Possibly, I like the idea of him going to the other world, seeing how good he does have it with his parents and how this world looks and how it developed because he was Spider-Man.
I wonder if they can try to recreate the spider, because we do know that 42 is dead. Because after it bit on them, he was like, ow, and then flicked them off, and the spider is dead. Yeah. So if they can try to recreate another spider to bite Miles, but I'm really interested in what happened to Miles, bad Miles, I don't want to say bad, misguided Miles. Because when you see him into the Spider-Verse, or is it across the first one? When you see him in the first one, he's in the school and he's studious and learning, and he's smart. They share those same connections of being studious and science and everything else. I want to know, did he take what he learned and to work for his uncle for evil? I mean, as being as the Prowler. So that should be interesting. I want to know that journey. But I do feel that they are maybe going to try to recreate what happened. And I do feel that the braided Miles is going to go into the other world, 65, and see what life is like over there. And that should be interesting. I know that from my understanding, the goal is to keep everything in its own universe. But if dimensions and everything are starting to just crash into each other in a way, because that's the whole thing of it being unstable, will we start seeing different merges of other people coming in that is not supposed to be there? So we're going to get introduction here.
That's a prediction that I have for the MCU as a whole, including Spider-Verse, because again, in the comics, when Kevin Feige announced the timeline for the next Avengers movies, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, in the comics for Secret Wars, it is literally an amalgamation of all realities in one, fighting against each other. So I think that's where they're going to lead it to, is maybe possibly the Spider-Verse movies are going to lead into MCU in that sense, that like Miles is going to join the Secret Wars and kind of join in on that whole battle at the end of the, what were we in, phase 4, phase 5? Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that idea very much so. So, anything else you guys want to add in?
Actually, I do. Anybody watching this movie, please, please, please make sure that they don't have any problems with epilepsy. There is a lot of flashing lights and colors in this movie. A lot. There's so much stuff, and I'm not personally complaining about it, but when I was watching the movie, I was like, damn, like I know some friends who are epileptic, and I was like, they can't watch this movie. They would have some serious problems. So like they should have a warning or something at the beginning of the movie about that. But yeah, please, epilepsy warning, be careful when you go and see this movie.
They should have it in the advertisement so that
Yeah,
people
really.
don't buy the ticket. You then have a seizure in the seat. So, Richard, anything you want to add?
I agree on Danny's warning. Hopefully they do consider that. Also, let's make sure that the volume is on point, because I have seen reports that some people watching the movie in the theaters, they can't hear the dialogue over the music and stuff like that. So they have to make sure that stuff is on point. But outside of that, an amazing movie. Looking forward to seeing what happens in the next one. And yes, this is a masterclass in animation, storytelling, everything. So if you are a Spider-Man fan, you need to go see this movie immediately. By the way, I hope that you saw the movie before you watched the spoiler, because we spoiled everything that happened in the movie. So I hope that you saw it. But yeah, awesome movie.
Well, we'll label it spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah, superb movie. I kind of want Doctor Strange and Miguel to meet. They can have like panic attacks with each other and talk about how much they can't stand their peers, because it's a mess. Yeah, so I just look forward to knowing what's going to happen in that other one, that third one. And I'm still saying that they're going to bleed into each other in terms of the live action. I mean, they announced a live action Miles right after, this movie was released. So, and again, Donald Glover to me is that he's the key to everything. So he's the forbidden door. That and J.J. Jameson, because they just use the same actor for the same voice and everything, even the Lego part.
Yeah.
Also, let me give a quick shout out to Amy Pascal, because she is the one that announced all these movies, and I see she got her Pastels Pictures logo in the movie as well before it starts. So that's why I said she making sure she get her money. She getting her money and her name out there with this stuff too.
Yeah, she found out a way to basically keep her job, because remember, it was looking real janky. And then remember when those Sony emails leaked, and she was basically saying how much everyone was petulant children and she couldn't stand working with them. So it'll be interesting. And also, do you guys have any cast? Do you think they should go with a newbie as opposed to an actor that is known? Shamika's way too old. He's like 50, 40, maybe 30. Maybe 30?
Yeah, they have to get a teenager regardless, like for that. Yeah. Someone unknown for me. That's my opinion.
It should be someone unknown, someone young. And again, I think that'd be a wise decision to go with. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So they did say, they confirmed it. It says we'll see a live Morales in movie. And interview with Variety, she said you'll see all of it. So when she said all of it, that assumes to me everything is connected. And then on top of that, we have the Spider-Woman animated film.
Yep.
So that would be Jessica Drew?
Jessica Drew.
So, that's amazing. Yay for like people of color. Can we just, for a moment, it was so beautiful and diverse. And I just loved how they just brought together all the different cultures. And then remember when she's pregnant and then we're going to meet the husband. Remember, she said, we don't know the sex of the baby yet. The husband wants it a secret. So we're obviously going to get him and their life raising a baby. See, this is why Peter B has to die, because it just would be repetitive. She's raising the baby with the husband, and she's Spider Woman. And we already have Peter B, who was like with his what do you call it, Mary Jane,
Why can't
raising
the
the baby.
Why can't the kids play together?
The kid can play. How is this? I need someone to like. We'll see what happens, but yeah. So this should be really interesting. We already know, like we said, Spider-Man 4 is in development, and we're just waiting for the writer's strike to be over with.
Yeah.
So overall, I think this was fantastic. This was the best animated movie for me, and maybe the best. I would say the best comic book movie, probably.
I still like the first one better than this one here, the second one. But it is a very close margin. Like it's very close. So like I still go for the first one. But if I want to just generalize it, the Spider-Verse movies have been the best MCU, Marvel, Spider-Man, everything movie, period.
I agree on that. And I will also say, no offense to all the other movies coming out this year, this has already won the Oscar for Best Animated Film for next year. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I know they'll have Elemental, other movies, Pixar and stuff in there. I'm sorry, there's no competition. This is going to win that award next year. Rightfully
Should it
so.
be nominated for Best Picture?
It can be nominated for Best Picture. I guess we have to wait and see. I know there's a couple of movies coming out that you say you're looking forward to seeing. So we'll see about that.
It'll be really interesting. It'll be interesting to know what people will think once the Flash drops.
I'm hearing good things about that. It's crazy.
I could legally say it's a superb movie. So
that's very surprising.
I can legally say that. It is superb. And I think that DC is finally, if they continue this route, they would finally have a way to get out of the gutter and to actually make movies of substance. Because again, what my thing is, I don't care about what powers you have. I don't care how many cameos. It's about story. And this, even if you have a basic story, like if you look at Spider-Verse, what we're dealing with, it's a basic story. Trying to save his father, thinking he can do it all. It's relatable, right? So that, and then you have the Flash. I'm trying to save my mother. Same thing, very relatable. And you have because this is in the trailer, it's not a spoiler, of the two Barrys. One who was with his mom, one without his mom, and his dad being framed for murder. So basic stories, but it's all about the telling. And I think that it'll be interesting to see what everyone's take is on the story. So that should be something else. So if that is, I guess that's everything. Unless you guys have anything else, a perfect cameo or anything else? You guys are good? All right, then. So this has been a wonderful time speaking to both of you. We will be back with other reviews for other movies. This month is not this month, but this month also is very busy with movies in general. So we will see you then, and have a great day, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're catching this. Thank you.